We've got several different stories from several different media outlets, you guys. It's time for another episode of the World's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of the World's Newsround, where I cover various different stories from outside the UK. And we start here with this one from The Guardian with the headline that children at death's door as famine declared in Sudanese refugee camp. The UN-backed early warnings network confirms people in the Darfur city of Al Fashir that are starving to death. And this, if this wasn't already if people didn't know this was happening, this was already going to be coming. The warning signs were there the longer this war, not only because of the longer lasting of this war and this conflict between two selfish generals as well. But the thing is that people have been saying in the last few weeks in the build up to this story was that a lot of the armies, both sides, didn't want aid going certain places or whatever because they thought they might be helping the enemy, sort of thing. And not many journalists can get into Sudan, so not a lot of coverage is highlighted as well because of the risks there. Yes, of course, there are risks, obviously, with the journalists that get involved with what's happening with inside Gaza as well. But here in Sudan, it's definitely, it is just as horrific and just as brutal, but you don't get as much coverage because obviously it's an African country as opposed to a Middle Eastern country. Geography-wise, I know it's ridiculous, but yeah, not enough aid, not enough is getting in to those who are desperately needing it. And this is in part because of both sides, making it very difficult, making it very hard for UN and aid agencies to get in there and get the aid and supplies that are needed to these desperate people, because these people are literally starving to death. They are literally starving to death, and they're not getting what they need. And they're certainly not getting them from the armies, whether it's from the Rapid Support Forces or the Sudanese army. They're not getting that. They're not getting the aid that they need, and then this is what is coming to now. And it's a horrible situation. And at the moment, and still, guys, not enough is being done. Nowhere near enough is being done about this. And this is not just a shameful time for Sudan. It's not just a shameful thing for Africa. This is a shameful thing on world leaders who need to stand up and be accounted for, and they have not been accounted for in this situation, because there have been, as we have said, the warning signs have been there time and time again, and again, silence from the world. So famine has been declared in the Sudanese displacement camp in the besieged city of Al Fashir, and about 600,000 people are estimated to be living in camps just outside the capital of North Darfur. The UN-backed famine. Let me just close this. The UN-backed famine early warnings network, FUNET, said on Thursday it had evidence to confirm people were starving to death in the Zamzam camp, and it was possible the worst levels of hunger were also present in Al Dushura and Al Shalim camps. FUNET only declared famine after it confirmed mortality rates have reached extreme levels, which it says has been evidenced in Zamzam for up to 2 months. Al Fashir has been besieged by Rapid Support Forces, the RSF paramilitary, for months as it tries to capture the city from the Sudanese army, having already taken control of other major cities in the western region of Darfur. Without an end to this conflict and in the absence of large-scale humanitarian food assistance, extreme human suffering will persist, said FUNET's decisions support advisor Lark Walters. The population of Al Fashir's displacement camp, formed by the genocide in Darfur in the early 2000s, has swollen in the past year as people have fled the RSF in other parts of the region. FUNET said the war and the RSF siege in the city have restricted the transport and food and the ability to grow it. The population has long exhausted the last harvest from late 2023. Staple grains have now cost up to 180% above the 3-year average. Yeah, people just don't have. People's money is not worth anything there. You just can't buy. You can't buy your way out of this situation, which is just as horrible for some of these people. Mohammed Kwasabish, the Sudan's country director for the Child Rights Charity Plan International, said no food assistance has reached Zamzam since April. We are at the start of August, and it has been since April, he is saying. Just more than 2 months. When the RSF intensified its attacks in al-Fashir, this situation was entirely preventable, and the international community must not waste another moment. With the lean season underway and without urgent action, the number of children and families facing starvation will only grow, Qazibash has said. Medical charity Megseni's Asan Frontiers said the RSF have been holding its trucks on the road outside al-Fashir, presenting medicine and food reaching the city. And this is the problem. This is consistently the problem. Stephen Doyle, who had the MSF's emergency response in Sudan, says, because their supplies have not arrived yet, we only have enough therapeutic food left to last another few weeks. Already, many children there are at death's doors. These supplies are needed to save their lives. MSF also said al-Fashir's Saudi hospitals, which is support, was hit by shelling this week. The 10th incident involved hospitals in the city since April. Yeah, another... Although it's obviously a small piece here from The Guardian, but it is still, just because they're from another continent, they're still human beings, guys, and they're still being left to die. They're being left to starve. And the rapid support forces are as it says in there, they're stopping people from getting the food and the food they need to live. They're literally killing their own people. They are literally killing their own people with their actions. There was a story that I haven't covered it here, guys, but there's a story that there was an assassination attempt on on one of the generals, and after that assassination attempt basically happened, he basically said, "No negotiations. We're not going to negotiate now." So nothing is going to change for a while. Which is absolutely horrible. So, yeah, it's just extremely frustrating, guys, because, yeah, innocent people are suffering as a result of this pointless war, as far as I'm concerned. The next one I have for you guys is from CNN. Yes, this one is a couple of days old from the time you guys see this, but it's entirely possible this may update by the time you guys see this as well. So Maduro warns he'll call for a new revolution if forced by North America's imperialism. So what's this all about? So since the general election last weekend in Venezuela, Maduro is still holding on to power. He believes that he won a legitimate election. We know that's not true. We know it's not true, guys. Sorry, I should put this out there at the start of the video, guys. The video is being recorded on Friday, the 2nd of August, at about 7:50 a.m. UK time for those references as well. I should point that out for people. Apologies for not pointing out earlier. Yeah, I am. He did not win that election free and fair. He threw his main opposition challenger in prison and made up stories. The opposition candidate had the most votes because of what, according to most polls, and what Dal, the Electoral Commission, which is basically controlled by the government and controlled by Maduro, basically said that Maduro won. It wasn't an independent body that checked it, and as far as I'm aware, no actual independents have checked it. Now, you can argue that some countries that are in favour of authoritarianism, such as Bolivia, Russia, and a few others, may be in favour of it, but the majority of nations have not acknowledged the election result as fair. He had an opportunity to call a free and fair election long ago, and he chose not to. So, like I said, Venezuela has never experienced democracy. The people have never experienced democracy, and once again, they've been denied their right to vote. But this threat here, it's not America he should be worried about. It's the people he should be worried about. So Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro warned on Wednesday that he will not hesitate to call on the population for a new revolution if forced by what he calls North American imperialism and fascist criminals. Murado's comments come amid deadly protests across the country following his disputed presidential election victory, which the US and several other countries have refused to recognise. I would not like to go to other ways of making revolutions. I say it solemnly from political power. We want to continue that path that Hugo Chavez outlined, Murado said in a caucus during a press conference with the international media. But if North America, imperialism and fascist criminals force us, my pulse will not tremble to call the people to a new revolution with other characteristics, he added. The new revolution will be removing you from power. That is the new revolution. President comments just hours after the U.S. National Security spokesperson John Kirby called on Murado to come clean on Sunday's election. It's entirely possible more information may have come out by the time you guys see this as well. Our patience of that of the international community is running out waiting on the Venezuelan electoral authorities to come clean and release the full, detailed data on this election so everyone can see the results, Kirby told reporters during Wednesday's White House press briefing. Kirby said the US and other nations share serious concerns of the reports of casualties, violence and arrests, including the arrest warrants of Murado and his representatives issued today, Wednesday, for opposition leaders. Alongside the international community, we are watching and we're going to respond accordingly, Kirby has said. The Venezuelan leader's comments come as Human Rights Watch, HRW, said it had received 20 credible reports of deaths connected to nationwide protests over the election results. We are working to document and collaborate with each case, Jelena Gomez, HRW director of the Americans, wrote on X. Fodro Pano, a local NGO, reported on Tuesday that a total of 11 people have died during the protests. Of those killed, 5 died in Caracas, 2 in Zola and Yaxi, and 1 in Angria and Tarica. The head of Pano, Alfonso Romero, had told reporters on Tuesday. CNN has reached out to Venezuela's public prosecutor for comment. So far, the Venezuelan government has not published any information in regards to the death of civilians. Yeah, at the time of this recording, and obviously this one, guys, I've not seen anything as of yet, but that doesn't mean to say that there wouldn't be by the time you guys see this as well. So it's entirely possible that they may release the information. It's entirely possible. Unlikely, but it is also entirely possible that maybe Murado faces even stronger backlash from protesters over the weekend, which would not surprise me to say the least as well. The country is not in a very good place, and they want something different. They want a change. They want a new regime. They want a new political party, and Murado just won't move. He just won't move. I know some police officers have turned their back on serving their country. I know that there were questions there was one report I saw about 1 or 2 generals questioning whether they should stick with Murado, military generals, which is obviously quite huge, because if he loses control of the military, he's done for. He knows he's done for if he loses control of the military. So I don't know if the military may top him as well, which is entirely possible. That can potentially happen. I don't think it will, but it can potentially happen as well. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that one as well, guys. But yeah, it's more unnecessary suffering for the people of Venezuela, and they've already gone through enough crap in their lifetimes. One person who's gone through quite a lot for a while is a journalist, Evan Gershkovich. Gershkovich, I hope I say his name right. He's finally been free, guys. It's pretty much one of the biggest news stories that's come out, biggest world news stories that's come out over the last couple of days. This one is from Euronews. Gershkovich and others have been freed after a massive US-Russia prisoner swap. So, I just saw, before I've started recording this, guys, I saw Donald Trump throw a tantrum over this because obviously he thought that he was the only one who could get him out. And it appears that that's not the case, and that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris apparently Kamala Harris played a significant role in this as well. This could be just the press office talking a bit. But yeah, the Biden administration and Gershkovich played quite a significant role in getting him and others out. And this is a great thing. I was generally worried about him, that he would be stuck in there for a long time. At the end of the day, he's a journalist. There wasn't really, I don't know what evidence Russia really had on him, but he's been there for quite a while. But it's a huge relief to see. I saw a picture on Twitter of him, obviously on a plane coming back with others with an American flag. It was great to see. I'm just pleased for him, and I'm pleased for his family that they've been able to sort this out. By the way, if you hear a cat in the background, don't worry, Jasper's fine. The highly speculative Russia-US prisoner swap also includes Russian-US journalist Alescu Komorishkich, the former US Marine Paul Whelan, and Russian-British politician and journalist Vladimir Kara-Murza. The US and Russia completed their biggest prison swap in post-Soviet history on Thursday, with Moscow releasing journalist Evan Gershkovich along with Russian dissidents, including politicians and journalist Vladimir Kara-Murza, in a multinational deal that set 24 people free, officials have said. The trade followed years of secretive back-channel negotiations, despite relations between Washington and Moscow being at their lowest point since the Cold War after Russian President Vladimir Putin's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. The Russian-US journalist Alescu Komorishkich and former US Marine Paul Whelan were also part of the deal. In return, Moscow received Vladimir Klitschko, who was convicted in January of 2021 of killing a former Chechen rebel in Berlin Park 2 years earlier, apparently on the orders of Moscow's security forces. Thursday's swap deal is Washington and Moscow's latest exchange in the last 2 years. Follows a December 2022 trade that brought the WNB star Brittany Griner back to the US in exchange for notorious arms trafficker Victor Bout. Speculation had mounted for weeks that a swap was near because of the confluence of unusual developments, including a startling quick trial and conviction of Gershkovich that Washington regarded as a sham, and he was sentenced to 16 years in the maximum security prison. Yeah, I feared the worst for him when that was made. Also, in recent days, several other figures imprisoned in Russia for speaking out against the war in Ukraine over their work in the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny were removed from prisons to unknown locations. Yeah. So what happened in the run-up to the swap deal? So Gershkovich was arrested on the 29th of March last year while on a report trip to Ural Mountains in the city of Yekaterinburg. Without offering any evidence, authorities claimed that he was gathering secret information for the US. The son of Soviet immigrant who settled in New Jersey, and he moved to the country in 2017 to work for the Moscow Times newspaper before being hired by the Washington Street Journal in 2022. He had more than a dozen closed hearings over the extension of his pre-trial detention or appeals for his release. He was taken to the courthouse in handcuffs and appeared in the defendant's case, often smiling from memory cameras. US officials made last year an offer to swap Gershkovich that was rejected by Russia, and Biden administration has not made public any possible deals since then. Gershkovich was designated as wrongfully detained, as was Whelan, who was detained in December 2018 after traveling to Russia for a wedding. Whelan was convicted of espionage charges, which he and the US have also said were false and trumped up, and he was serving a 16-year prison sentence. Whelan had been excluded from prior high-profile deals involving Russia, including the April 2022 swap by Moscow of imprisoned Marine veteran Trevor Reed from Konstantin-Yarkovskoye, a Russian pilot convicted of drug trafficking conspiracy. Earlier on Thursday, the Kremlin declined to comment on reports of an immediate US-Russia prison swap as speculation over the swap grew. Dmitry Peskov, press secretary for Russian President Vladimir Putin, responded to the question with, "No, I still don't have any comments on this topic." Live flight tracking site Flight Trader 24 showed a Russian government plane that had previously been used to exchange political prisoners landing in Kaliningrad before flying back to Moscow. It was assumed that the exchange of political prisoners took place on the border of Poland, although this remains unconfirmed. Plane with the tail number RA61727M was previously used to exchange Bout, Koskin-Yavargo, and Noveska Salavisko. If I mispronounce any of the names, I do apologize. But yeah, he was sentenced, but obviously not just Gershkovich, but other deals obviously have been made to make this happen. I don't know why Donald Trump is mad about this. This is good. This is good for Russia. This is good for US. It's good, and it seems like a fair deal has been agreed here behind closed doors. At least that's how it appears here. So I don't know why Trump is kicking off about this. Probably because it's a good thing, from a political point of view. But who cares about political point of views when innocent people are being locked up? He shouldn't have gone to Russia in the first place. I know you have to be careful if you're a U.S. citizen or British citizen. If you're in Russia, you are asking to get to get arrested for no reason. You have to be really, really careful, guys. You know, I would love to go to Russia. I would love to visit Moscow, but I can't ever see myself going there in my lifetime, simply because, you know, I just don't think I'd be able to freely be able to travel and tour and whatnot. And I could be accused of espionage just by taking photos and whatnot. So I'm not going to. I don't think I'll ever set foot in the country, which is a real shame. I would love to go there. Love to go there one day, but I just think I'd be accused of something if I ever did. But yeah, I'm just glad that the US were able to negotiate this, and a deal has been secured, and these people can come home. Very, very delighted about this. That is for sure. So very good story to hear, guys. If you haven't already, guys, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And thank you to everyone who's done all that. It is greatly appreciated. Right, so the next one I've got for you guys is an article from CNA, from Central News Asia. North Korea wants to restart nuclear talks if Trump wins, says the ex-diplomat. Well, of course they want to restart nuclear talks. We know that Donald Trump has his best friend is Kim Jong-un. North Korea doesn't want nothing to do with the current Biden administration. They want to talk to the Biden administration. They don't mind talking to Donald Trump because Donald Trump is willing to have discussions with him. It's pretty crazy that this... Yes, I do find it amazing that this man was able to have not one but two meetings with Kim Jong-un. It's quite crazy. But there you go. He had conversations with him. But I do feel like North Korea took advantage of Kim Jong-un took advantage of Trump, just like Vladimir Putin takes advantage of Trump as well. But yeah, there's if Trump doesn't win, obviously they're not going to do these talks either way, to be fair. But let's read into it, you guys. So, North Korea wants to reopen nuclear talks with the United States if Donald Trump is re-elected as president, and is working to devise a new negotiation strategy, a senior North Korean diplomat who recently defected to South Korea told Reuters. The escape of Ryu from Cuba made headlines globally last month. He was the highest-ranking North Korean diplomat to defect to the South since 2016. In his first interview with international media, Ryu said North Korea has set Russia, the US and Japan as its top foreign policy priorities for this year and beyond. While boasting relations with Russia, Pyongyang was keen to reopen nuclear negotiations if Trump, who engaged in both fiercery, brinkmanship and unprecedented diplomacy with North Korea during his previous term, won re-election in November, Ryu had said. Pyongyang diplomats were mapping out a strategy for that scenario with the goal of lifting sanctions on its weapons programs, removing its designations as a state sponsor of terrorism and elected economics aid, said Ryu. His comments signal a potential about face from the North's current stance after recent statements about ditching the possibility of dialogue with the US and warning of armed confrontation. A summit between North Korea leader Kim Jong-un and Trump in Vietnam in 2019 collapsed over sanctions, for which Ryu's party blamed Kim's decision to entrust inexperienced, clueless military commanders with nuclear diplomacy. Kim Jong-un doesn't know much about international relations and diplomacy or how to make a strategic judgment, he said. This time, the foreign ministry would definitely gain power and take charge, and it won't be so easy for Trump to tie North Korea's hands and feet again for years without giving anything. Russia ties Japan's aid. By forging closer ties with Russia, North Korea received help with its missile technology and economy. But a bigger benefit could be to block additional sanctions and undercut existing ones, Ryu said, adding that it would raise Pyongyang's bargaining power against Washington. The Russians got their own hands dirty by engaging in illegal transactions, and thanks to that, North Korea no longer needs to rely on the US to lift sanctions, which essentially means they stripped the US of one of these key bargaining chips, he said. In Tokyo, the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, if I mispronounce the name again, I apologize, has said that he wants to meet Kim, but the issue of Japanese national abductees by North Koreans in the 1970s and 80s had long been a stumbling block. According to Ryu, Kim would seek to hold a summit with Japan, aiming to get economic assistance in return for concessions on the abductees issue. Tokyo believes 17 of its citizens were abducted, 5 of whom returned to Japan in 2002. Pyongyang sees the issue as settled, having admitted to kidnapping 13 Japanese nationals and saying those unaccounted for had either died or their whereabouts were unknown. Rai said Kim would be willing to change that position established under his father Kim Jong-un II in order to obtain economic support. They're saying that this issue was resolved, but that's just to boost negotiation power until he makes concessions at a summit, he said. Having studied at a French school in Algeria and lived in Cuba alongside his late father, who was a state media reporter, Rai said he had imagined life in South Korea since his childhood, but never acted to flee until he was bullied by a diplomat colleague for refusing to demand his demands for bribes. Then the defining moment came when Pyongyang instantly refused his request to get medical treatment in Mexico at his own expense for a ruptured disc in his neck. That exploited all the resentment I had been harbouring towards the regime, he said. The COVID-19 lockdown deeply in hardship at home for those stationed overseas, with most telephone lines to Pyongyang cut to prevent any information from spreading outside the world, Rai said. Financial troubles also forced North Korea to shut down a dozen of its 54 diplomatic missions as well. When they began reopening and summoning those workers abroad in early 2023, they asked to bring everything from used toothbrushes and spoons back home, saying there's nothing there, he said. Rai had also witnessed and in his job tried to impede the launch of diplomatic relations between South Korea and Cuba, a Cold War era ally of North Korea. I had done everything to block that from happening, but established relations with Cuba was the best thing South Korea has done since last year, he said. It was a more example of how the tides of history have turned and where a normal civilization of international community is headed. Interesting, very interesting stuff here about someone who, this ex-diplomat, obviously, in the history that he has there. Very fascinating to read indeed, guys. It's you know, to get into the minds of what people working within North Korea kind of, and that experience that he's had. But obviously, if he ever sets foot in the country again, he knows that there's going to be deep consequences if he ever sets foot in the country again. But as for nuclear talks, I don't see anything coming of that. I don't see anything changing. I think even if Trump was to win the general election, I don't think it would. That North Korea would North Korea have that same relationship that they do? They'd be demanding serious concessions from America in order to do so. I just don't think that it would happen, if I'm honest. I think it's just a lot of talk. I think that's all it is at the end of the day. But maybe I'm wrong and maybe things will change, but we will have to wait and see, you guys. So guys, I've got a couple more articles for you guys. But before we do, just going to take a little break and break the ice a little bit in between. I've got a really good video. I've got a funny video for you guys. This one I've not seen yet. So I'm actually looking forward to this one. It's a new one from Foil and Arms. A new getting past immigration. And this one is getting past Austrian immigration. Let's see how they do in this one, guys.
Grüß Gott. Before granting you entry to Austria, I just have a few simple questions. First, what do tourists visiting Austria find it very hard to get over?
The Alps.
Correct. How do you say goodbye in Austria?
So long.
Farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.
Correct. Which famous Austrian waltz is known for its playful tone and contrasting expressions?
Christoph Waltz.
He is.
Yeah.
Now, names the capital of Austria.
Vienna.
Correct. How do you order a coffee in Vienna?
Oh, quickly, or not at all.
Why do Austrians have such enormous balls?
Because they love to waltz.
Yeah, they do. How do you count to 3 in Austria?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1, 2.
Which crime carries the biggest sentence in Vienna?
Running your washing machine on a Sunday.
Don't do it. Finish the following lyric. The hills are alive with...
Rising temperatures, dwindling snowfall, soil erosion, and forest fires.
Correct. When you are in a rush in Austria, what is a common farewell?
Get to the chopper!
Yeah. In Austria, what is the term used for unconsciously drinking from somebody else's glass of wine?
Oh, a Freudian sip.
Yeah. Now, bitte, before we go, tell me about your mothers.
Really?
Yeah, it's for the visa form.
Oh, sorry.
Also, hold on, I will get Matthias. Matthias, come here, bitte. Oh, he is too far away. I will have to use opera. Matthias, Matthias, Matthias.
Doomed up.
What the hell was that? What on earth was that? Look, they got a show, guys. They're playing in Vienna. They're actually going to be in Vienna as well. 14th of October. They're sold out on the 13th. That's very good. Fire and Arms, guys. Make sure you follow them. Keep an eye out on their schedules, their events. Definitely worth checking out if you can, guys. Wonderful, wonderful stuff there. That was definitely different. I think is a good word to describe it. It was definitely different. So, guys, just a reminder for you guys. Obviously, this YouTube channel is only my main source of income. So any financial support obviously makes a big difference, guys. So whether it is leaving a super chat or gifted memberships or any kind of financial support really does make a massive difference to me. You can join the YouTube membership for as little as 99p. I do have a 2.99 tier as well, but even 99p may not seem like a lot of money. It really does make a massive difference to support the work that I do here. By being a 99p YouTube member, same as the 2.99 membership, you get access to custom emojis of the gang behind me. That's these guys here. If I can show you guys. So you get so this gang here, these are basically the followers who keep an eye on my work. That is Pingu the penguin, Cash Dummy, who is the cookie monster, and Ollie the octopus, who sits on top of the orb and lava lamp. So you get emojis of those you can use whenever there's premiere videos or live streams, whenever I live stream as well. So do feel free to come and join us for them as well as members. Also, whenever you comment on any of my videos, I always give you a response back when you are a YouTube member as well. And also, whenever I put up any special member community posts, you guys get to see them as well. So thank you to everyone who has financially supported me anyway. It's greatly appreciated. And if you are a $2.99 member, you get early access to content as well. So that's another benefit you get for being a $2.99 membership. So you get that on top of if you decide to become a $2.99 membership. Otherwise, if you want to financially support me, it's by buying me a coffee. Link is in the description, or by joining my Patreon. Unlike some other people who just have a Patreon and doesn't have anything on it, no, you get plenty of content on the Patreon, both free content and paid content. If you decide to become a Patreon supporter, I actually get a bigger cut on there than I do actually on YouTube as well. So if you want to consider joining that, you can check out the links in the description. But even if you can't financially support me, just hitting the like button, sharing across social media, subscribing, watching my videos a little bit longer, leaving comments down below, all those things greatly help support the algorithm for the channel. So thank you to everyone who's done so. It is greatly appreciated, guys. I'd like to get to 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you guys can help me get there, it would be much appreciated. So guys, the next article I've got for you guys is from Al Jazeera. The headline is: a potential for a new Myanmar as an anti-coup forces push a new northern offensive. So this has been going on for quite a while. The conflict in Myanmar. I don't cover enough of this, guys, and I do apologize for not covering enough of this. Obviously, I could have covered this on the Snowflake conflict, but there's plenty of other stuff obviously to cover on there. But I wanted to give at least an update of what's been happening over there. So this is obviously on the 1st of August. So this is the latest that I could find on what's happening there. So fighting is escalating in an area stretching 280 kilometers. That's 174 miles. From Monday to the city of Lishko, the home of military's Northeastern Regional Command Center. So, obviously, it's been ruled by military. Obviously, the country's been ruled by military, and obviously, people want to break out of this military rule. And this conflict has been going on for far too long, and the people of Myanmar just want to be able to break free from this. I don't know if or when this is going to end anytime. It's been going on for quite a while, you guys. So on June the 25th, an explosion shook the town of Muruk in Myanmar's central Mandalay region, sending Harshung and her family rushing for a shelter in the nearby trenches. Over the next 3 days, they waited underground for the fighting to stop, but it only got worse. So when the explosion subsided, I cooked quickly. I couldn't eat well. I was overwhelmed by stress and fear, said the 34-year-old who's from Myanmar's ethnic Mbama majority. The sound of the airstrikes makes it impossible to sleep. She decided to flee, stopping only to pick up the family dog when it was chasing her down the streets. At 3 months pregnant and with a 12-year-old child, I found myself carrying our pet dog in front of her motorcycle, riding through Mosluk on Mandalay with tears streaming down my face. She said, "This is the reality of fleeting." Like others interviewed, she used a pesticide due to the risk of military reprisal. Kherson is one of 41,000 people who have fled their homes since the new round of fighting broke out in the Mandalay region and northern Sudan state in late June, according to the United Nations, which says that 3 million people have been forced from their homes in Myanmar, most of them since the 2021 military coup. Yeah, it's been going. Yeah, since 2021, this has been going on since the military coup. Data collected by the Thai Student Union, the TSU, a community-based humanitarian group, indicates that the number of displaced by the recent fighting in northern Shan state and Mandalay region have been closer to 100,000. The TSU also found that 141 civilians were killed and a further 100 injured from June the 15th to July the 18th. So this is the ruins of the One Love Hotel, a popular landmark in the town of Cusco, northern Shan state, just 2 days after a Myanmar military airstrike on the 30th of June. This is. The latest battle marks the second phase of a wider offensive against the military known as Operation 1027, which began last October. And in the first phase, an alliance of ethnic armed organizations seized strategy territory along a Shan state eastern border in China, in one of the most dramatic advances for groups opposing the military since the coup. Now resistant forces are fighting for control over an area stretching 280 kilometers, that's 174 miles, from Mandalay to the city of Leshko, which serves as the military's northeastern regional command centers. So far, forces led by Thailand National Liberation Army, the TNLA, Myanmar's National Democratic Alliance Army, the MNDAA, and Mandalay People's Defense Forces, the PDF, have claimed control over muskets known for its lucrative ruby mines and the northern Shai state town of Kalukame and Nanalan Kisco, among other areas. On July the 25th, the MNDAA claimed it had taken control of Leshko. However, the fight for full control of the city as well as the town of Cusco appears to be ongoing. According to Nathan Ruska, a geospatial analysis with the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, Operation 1027 now has a potential to establish a continuous pathway of resistance control from the Chinese border across the Anaway River through Myanmar's central heartlands. He said that the offensive represents advanced levels of coordination between ethnic armed forces and the PDF's form after the coup, but also cautioned that its further success depends largely on the ability of the northern Shan state ethnic armed organizations, some of Myanmar's strongest to peacefully resolve questions over power and influence among themselves. And I think it's one of the biggest questions of this operation is how things will play out, Ruska has said. Millions protected peacefully for months after the coup, but the military responded with legal force, triggering an armed uprising. PDF's many are now operate under the National Unity Government, the NUG, to overthrow lawmakers and activists opposed to the coup, joined existing ethnic army organizations to challenge a military armed by Russia and China, and have now claimed such much of the countryside. Now they're increasingly fighting for control over urban areas. So this is TCLA soldiers on a hill overlooking Western Moloch in the mandatory region there. Operation 1029 marked the beginning of significant advances by resistant forces as the TNLA, the MNDAA and Afghan army quickly put the military on the back foot. Before China brokered ceasefire covering northern Shan state saw a pause in fighting, and on the 12th of January, a fragile peace held until June when the military attacked the TNLA targets from the air. On the 25th of June, the TNLA and Mandalay People's Defense Forces launched similar stimulus attacks. According to Klan Koko, the former chair of the National Student Union and current General Secretary of Myanmar's Social Democratic Party, while anti-coup forces faces an uphill battle due to disparity in weapons, they benefit from the support of the public. The military council may have superior firepower, but the revolutionary spirit and the morale of the revolutionary groups are significantly higher, he said. The assistance provided by the people helps reduce the challenges that they face. Mayang, an ethnic Tangan civilian and community volunteer, was in Kushmil midway between Mandalay and Lishkuro when the fighting broke out. The town of about 30,000 people came under TNLA control on June the 28th. But as in other areas seized by resistant forces, retaliatory airstrikes and shelling followed, and fighting for control over the town has resumed soon after, with the military blocking the movement of goods to areas with the presence of armed resistant groups and the fighting of Ongai across a northern Shan state. Ong Myang is concerned that Shumuk displaced civilians could face food shortages. We want to provide rice and oil to the drivers, but we worried that they might get hit by bombs if they come to pick up supplies, he says. The military also come and siege the supplies, and the stall owners can be arrested. Cameroon is also one of many areas where the military has restricted telecommunication networks since the fighting broke out. Even if we know that a fighter jet is coming and we want to inform people to avoid an area, we can't contact them, said Omo Mangyang. He spoke by phone from an area with some access. With more injuries and food supply running out, local people are increasingly worried, and we want this fighting to end quickly. And it's always the innocent people in these conflicts, guys, that suffer as a result of it. It's always the innocent. It's a feeling shared by Mang Yang Nyang, who is also using a pseudonym, I can't say that word, guys, sorry, for security reasons, to ethnically intang civilians, was not in his village of Nagarisco Township, 52 kilometers southwest of Cameroon, where the fighting broke out, but found out from friends that shelling had damaged his house and injured his brother. Resistance forces sieged Nagarico on July the 10th. Mang Yang Yang told Al Jazeera that he wants peace, but sees only one outcome which could end civilian suffering. I wish for the resistance groups fighting against the military to achieve their goal and win the war. Otherwise, we will have to continue living in fear and worry, he said. Losing our homes and lands is a great sorrow, but our main goal is to be free from military dictatorship. Another epicenter of the fight in Islatishko, where the MNDAA began its offensive on July the 2nd. The city of more than 170,000 people has since seen some of the most intense urban warfare since the coup, causing major destruction of its residential wards as well as at least 38 civilian casualties, according to Xing Piang, the Shang-based media outlet, which collaborated with Al Jazeera for this report in possible retaliation. The military has also recently bombed other areas in which the MNDAA seized in January, including the border city of Lugarica. Sang Yak, an ethnic Kajagan civilian who also asked to use a physiphone because of the risks, took shelter in a church compounded in Lugarica when the fighting broke out. He told Al Jazeera on the 11th of July that he feared going outside due to continuous airstrikes, drone attacks, and shelling. This is a TLNA soldier taking aim at his dugout in Mokok early last month. The TNA and its allies took over the town on the 24th of July. This is a brutal war. You know, this is a conflict that's been going on the other side of the world that we don't hear, that we know this happening, but we don't really know a lot in detail about. By then, tens of thousands of civilians have fled. Although Shanglang initially stayed behind to help others, he had second thoughts after his neighborhood was shelled. The consistent noise and fear is overwhelming, he said. It is clear that staying safe has become nearly impossible in Lashkio. Fighting alongside the TNLA and the MNDAA and several PDFs, Xiang Yangming, an ethnic Tangyang analysis, told Al Jazeera that the Mandalay PDF was particularly well positioned to take significant territory, unimpeded by geopolitical concerns faced by some Myanmar northern groups. Unlike the ethnic armed organization who might face pressure from China, armed resistant groups that emerged from the Spring Revolutions are not subject to such influence, he said. If the Mandalay PDF can maintain their momentum, they could potentially control some parts of the Mandalay region in the beginning of next year. As humanitarian need intensifies, so does the challenge of reaching affected populations. Although community-based organizations have typically led humanitarian responders in areas of North Shane State, the international aid group have struggled to reach. Local responders are now facing major challenges, according to Vanla, an executive committee member of the TSU who's going by her nickname. And she told Al Jazeera that a combination of rising fuel and commodity prices, telecommunication shutdown and roadblocks have posed significant obstacles into helping those in the conflict zone. We are losing contact and can't transfer or withdraw the funds that we raise, she said. She also worries that her team members could be conscripted into an ethnic, armed or organization or the military, or to be caught in the crossfire of the conflict. We can't even know when or how heavy weapon gunfire might fall near us, and so we are carrying out our work under consistent fear, she said. I remember a while ago that the military was forcing certain young men of a certain age they were conscripting. Basically, they were dragging people. Basically, saying if you didn't join, they. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they would be killed, but certainly a lot of them were forced into joining the military in this conflict when they didn't want nothing to do with it. I'm pretty sure they did quite a lot of that in the areas earlier on. Maybe earlier this year, maybe I think it was, or last year. They forced a lot of conscriptions on the young men to join. I even think middle-aged men who didn't want no part of this conflict as well. The fighting also has implications for other ethnic armed organisations in northern Shan State, several of which have not joined the country's wider uprising against the military. At least 4 skirmishes are broken out between the TNLA and Shan State Progress Party, Shan State Army North, the SSPP, the SSA, and on July the 12th, both of them moved into northern Shan State town of Mongyang, claiming efforts to promote regional stability and public security. Yeah, you have to understand that there's lots and lots. But people try and bring a bit. Let me try and bring a bit of context for those. You have to understand that all these. It's not just one group that's against the military here. There's loads of different organizations and military groups in different parts of Myanmar. Many of them who do not like each other, but are putting aside. A lot of them are putting aside their own differences in order to topple the military coup that occurred in 2021. So there's all these different factions within Myanmar, that some of them in different parts of Myanmar who are working together. A lot of those factions, obviously different factions and groups within Myanmar who are working, some are working together, some are not working together to defeat the military. That's what there's just a bit to have that helps in terms of a bit of context here, with when you hear some of these names and armies and whatnot. There's all these different groups, organizations and military. So it's not just one. It's not one unified. You can call them all the resistance, but they're all different factions, different groups and whatnot. There's not like one entity against the military. I think it's the best way to put it. Different. It's different, multiple entities in different parts of Myanmar. The United States Wild State Army, the UWSSA, which maintains a ceasefire with the military and is considered to be Myanmar's most powerful ethnic armed organization, has also responded to the shifting dynamics in the northern Shan State. Although it maintains autonomous territory along the China border, has so far refrained from open involvement in the country's wider conflict since the coup. And it began moving thousands of soldiers into the town of Tangyang on July the 20th. A UWSA spokesperson told the local media outlet Myanmar now it took action at the request of local people after the negotiation with the military council to protect the wider war from spreading. To prevent. A local Wa civilian speaking on conditional autonomy told Al Jazeera on July the 13th that the UWSA soldiers had entered into town without a fight, and both military forces and WA soldiers maintained a presence. The USWA just entered for public security and for the public to be able to move freely, it said. It's unclear what deals they might have made with the Beninese military, and I don't know how long they will stay. And on Saturday, the UWSA also moved personnel to Ladishko. A spokesperson told the AFP news agency that the move sought to protect the group's external relations office and property in the township. So there are some groups that aren't united in against them, as just read there as well. So there's a lot of multiple factors, a lot of multiple things here. Rusa, a geospatial analysis that said while the integrants for clashes between ethnic armed organizations exist, the groups have indicated a preference for resolving their differences through compromise and without resorting to violence. I think there is a group mentally that has the potential for a new Myanmar, he said. It's a perspective that seems to be shared by Lang Yin-yo, a TNLA spokesperson, and she told Al Jazeera in a phone interview that the group wants to address issues with other ethnic armed organizations peacefully. We'll have to find a solution as much as possible through negotiations, cooperation and dialogue, she said. Looking ahead, Ong Myang, a citizen in Kashmir, said he would like to see the TNLA and other resistant groups prioritize intercommunal harmony when administration territory is under their control. During the rehabilitation period, we want to see requests that everyone be treated equally regardless of ethnicity and religion, he said. War is war. However, ethnic unity is also important because we have to live together across various communities. Shang Mingyang, a Shan State-based media outlet, also contributed to this report as well. So special thanks to them and for Al Jazeera for putting this together here. So very interesting stuff there, to say the least. Obviously, yeah, there are multiple ethnic groups as well. So it's a very, I would say this war in Myanmar is a very complex war. And it's very complex. It's very difficult to understand, even for myself, guys, to understand that the different groups that are taking part, different groups, different factions, all over taking part in this. It may never end for a good long time. No, not just small areas, but lots of different areas. That is for sure, guys. But hopefully you found that informative and useful. But that's some of what's been happening in Myanmar from the last reporting. Anyway, I will see if I can try and find an outlet that keeps a bit more up to date with what's exactly going on in there. I think that would be a good idea if I can possibly for you guys. So moving away to America, guys. This is I don't know how many of you have been aware of this, but there was a deepfake video put out, a deepfake AI video put out on Kamala Harris that went out on X, that Elon Musk quote tweeted as well. And we're going to play the deepfake video, but before we do, I just want to share the article here. So Elon Musk made a Kamala Harris deepfake ad go viral, sparking a debate about parody and free speech. A parody campaign using a fake Kamala Harris voice reposted by Elon Musk brings questions about deepfakes and the election into sharp focus. Now, we know that he's trying to suppress on X. He's trying to suppress any support, suppressing support for Kamala Harris and trying to favour more things for Donald Trump. And obviously, we know that he's a backing of Trump. But you know, he talks about free speech when there has been reports that he has quietened on people who are supporting Kamala Harris, on especially people with big followings and whatnot. But I want to read into this before I play the ad for you guys. So, a fake Kamala Harris campaign ad using a manipulative version of her voice has become a flashpoint in the escalating debate over how to treat manipulated media, often referred to as deepfakes, ahead of the 2024 election. The fake Harris audio is recirculated by Elon Musk in a post that has seen more than 115 million times, includes digs about diversity, President Joe Biden and border policy, as well as edited clips from the real Harris appearances. But reactions to the deepfake of Harris have been divisive, with some saying it's an example of dangerous type of manipulative media that needs tight regulation, and others saying it's a clear example of parody and thus deserves a different type of treatment. This is one of the most prominent political deepfakes to circulate so far, and it concerns a major presidential candidate. And the misleading synthetic audio was reposted by the owner of the platform. Lisa Gibbett, co-president of the non-profit consumer advocate organization Public Citizen, told NBC News that the stakes are really high. A representative for Harris's campaign confirmed to NBC News that the audio was fake and that the video was not a real campaign ad. So, obviously, by me playing this, guys, this means I will not be able to monetize this video, which means I will not make any money off ads by playing this, because obviously there is going to be some music and whatnot. So monetization will be turned off on this. So if anyone can give any money towards this premiere video, it would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, let's play the ad, guys.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick.
This is very clever. This is so clever. And like, the thing is that look, the context is not like like at the moment. I don't know what it looks like on Twitter, but the context right there. Already, you can say. Obviously, this was on the 27th of July when it was quote tweeted, but you can see there nearly 1 million likes. It's probably got more now, but still, like some people will buy into this, not knowing that it's a deep fake, because not everyone knows about deep fakes as well. This is also a thing. Not everyone on social media knows about deep fakes. Some people have heard about, but not everyone knows about deep fakes as well. So some people will fall into this trap.
Is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking. The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And
you know what's so stupid about that comment? That's very didn't like that just straight away screams, didn't Donald Trump visit like have meetings with Kim Jong-un and North Korea? Like, hello? Like, talk about hypocrite here. Like, hello?
just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, very good fake audio, very good deep fake audio, and yeah, people are gonna fall for it, guys. People are gonna fall for it. People are gonna think that's the real Kamala Harris. They're gonna think that they're gonna, you know, play that video to enough people, and people will fall for it. So yeah, this is you know, and don't be surprised if you see more in it as well, because remember, there's still quite a few months before then. I don't think it's any worth me reading the rest of this. I think, yeah, you know, the point has been made, but yeah, Elon Musk obviously backing this quote tweeting this is not helping, and it's literally misinformation. He's putting out misinformation as well, which is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. The article is in the description if you guys want to check it out. I'm not going to read the whole article just because I'm conscious of time and for you guys. But yeah, it's just, yeah, really, really bad. Really, really bad, guys. I know some of you guys thought that was funny, and there were parts of it I felt was funny as well. But yeah, deep fakes now can really, really harm people if you're not really careful. And that was a very good deep fake. And I was surprised we did not get more in the general election here in the UK. That doesn't mean to say that it can't happen in the future. And we've just got to be able to challenge that and deal with it accordingly. And at the moment, that's not... That is a major problem, and that won't be the last deep audio of things in the US elections. That is for sure, guys. So I have one last story for you guys, and this is from the BBC News. I don't know. Now, this is a couple of days old. Obviously, this, like I said, this premiere video was recorded on Friday morning for you guys. I just wondered why is it I'm wondering what took this so long, but then at the same time it's like this is really quite huge. I'm surprised this isn't blown up a bit more, but I suppose other world news has kind of dominated things. So from the BBC, you guys. So the 3 men accused of plotting 9/11 have reached a plea deal, according to the Pentagon here. So 3 of the men who were accused of plotting 9/11 have reached a plea deal. Khalid Shalit Mohammed, when he was captured in 2003. So this is nearly 20 years ago, that last image there. Now, I would not be surprised in the slightest if these people for the last 20 years or so have been, shall we say, allegedly tortured in some way, shape or form by certain agencies working for the US government. Allegations, I'm just putting that out there. Allegations, we don't know. You know, what happened on 9/11 really changed the course of history, as we know, and it's definitely something that is considered to be remembered for the rest of our lives. That those who were there, not those who were there, but those who lived, who were alive when it happened, and it really has changed the mindsets of a lot of people. So 3 of the men accused of plotting the September 11th, 2001 attacks on the US have entered into a pre-trial agreement, the Department of Defense has said. So Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Walz Mohammed Shalik, and Barak bin Atish, that's his fault, sorry, I can't say the full, if I mispronounce the name, apologize. Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Shahid have been held at US naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, for years without going to trial. Yeah. I'm stressing allegations that they may have been under potential torture and whatnot. Allegations, I'm just stressing. But when you're in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, they can kind of get away with quite a lot of things, can't they? In exchange for the prosecution agreeing not to seek the death penalty, the trio have agreed to plead guilty to all the charged offences, including the murder of 2,976 people listed on the charge sheet. The attacks in New York, Virginia, and Pennsylvania sparked the war on terror and the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. Greg Emerson, the president of the 9/11 Justice, an organization that represents the 9/11 survivors and relatives of victims, said in a statement to provide to the BBC that the families are deeply troubled by these plea deals. He said the process lacks transparency and urged the authorities to pursue more information on the role of Saudi Arabia in the attack. Terry Sondler, who lost her husband Tom, told the BBC Today programme, "It was a gut punch to hear there was a plea deal today, given that the detainees in Guantanamo Bay what they want." Ms. Strano, the national chair of the campaign group 9/11 Families United, added, "This is a victory for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other 2. It's a victory for them," she said. Now, I don't personally I don't agree with the death penalty in any way, shape, or form, even on these horrific, even by these men and the actions that they caused on that horrific, and the actions that they caused and their part in this horrible event. I do believe complete and total life imprisonment is for me, making them rot in a cell for the rest of their lives is the punishment, is the ultimate punishment for me. It's not actually the death penalty. I've considered the death penalty a get out of jail free card for these people, for people like them who are responsible for this. That's my perception. But obviously some people will disagree. But that's how I've always seen. I always see the death penalty as a get out of jail free card for people. The 9/11 attacks were the deadliest assault on US soil since 1941's Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where 2,400 people were killed. The plea deal was first announced in a letter sent by prosecutors to the families of victims, according to the BBC's US partner CBS News. It said the plea before a military court could come as early as next week. The trio would be sentenced later by a panel of military officers. In the letter, prosecutors said families may have the opportunity to deliver victim impact statements during the sentencing hearing, which is expected to take place in the summer of 2025. Prosecutors also acknowledged that the deal was likely to edict intense emotions and mixed reactions among the thousands of family members who lost someone. The decision to enter into a pre-trial agreement after 12 years of pre-trial litigation was not reached lightly. However, it is our collective reason and good faith judgment that this resolution is the best path to finally and justice in this case, prosecutors wrote in the letter. In its announcement, the US Department has said the specific terms and conditions of the pre-trial agreement are not available to the public at this time. The men have been accused of litany of charges, including attacking civilians, murder in violation of the laws of war, hijacking, and terrorism. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is widely considered to be the architect of the attack, in which hijackers seized passenger planes and crashed them into the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon outside of Washington. A fourth plane crashed into the field of Pennsylvania after passengers fought back. Mohammed, a US-educated engineer, was captured along with Hawasi in Pakistan in March 2003. Prosecutors argued that he brought his idea of hijacking and flying planes into US buildings into Al-Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden, and later helped recruit and train some of the hijackers. He was subject to a number of enhanced interrogation techniques, including waterboarding, stimulated drowning at least 183 times before the practice was banned by the US government. Like I said, I was expecting this stuff. The trial has been delayed for so long, partly because of the fears that the so-called brutal interrogation techniques, in which critics say amount to torture, could have been undermined the evidence against the detainees. This is the least a bad deal in the real world that would ever happen, the national security analyst Peter Bellin told CNN. In September, the Biden administration reportedly rejected the terms of the plea deal with 5 men held at a US Navy base in Cuba, including Mohammed. The men had reportedly sought a guarantee from the president that they would not be kept in solitary confinement and without access to trauma treatment. The White House National Security Council said that the president's office was told on Wednesday that the new deal they had played no role in negotiations. 15 of the 19 plane hijackers were Saudi nationals, and families are bringing a lawsuit against the kingdom which denies any involvement. Republicans attacked the Biden administration for striking a deal with the accused. Senator Minority Leader Mitch McConnell condemned these moves as a revolving abdication of the government's responsibility to defend America and provide justice. The only thing worse than negotiating with terrorists is negotiating with them after that they are in custody, he said. I'm in a torn, like, okay, I am a British citizen, but I'm in of two minds of this. One mind of this is that they want to bring justice and put an end to this, and put the final nail in the coffin of this saga. But another part of me is understanding of the anger and frustration of how America deals with these kinds of people. And obviously the perception, I would say, from most Americans is give them the death penalty. I would say that's because give them the death penalty because of the crimes that they've committed. And I think that's what a lot of these, and of course that's what those families for justice would want. I would think that's what the majority would want, is capital punishment on these people. But whether they would, but it looks as if that's not going to be the case. It has been quite a long time now. There's been quite a long time since then, and I have no sympathy whatsoever for these people. Now, Saudi Arabia has strongly denied any involvement whatsoever with this, but I don't know. Even though they are Saudi nationals, that doesn't help their image as well. But I do think that how much of this have they been speaking to? How much of this have they involved the families with this? And I really don't think the US government has, when it comes to this, have really given enough involvement with those families. And I really think their conscience, their feelings on this really should take more precedent, and when it comes to deciding the plea deal. I personally think that solitary confinement for the rest of their lives should be something that they should do. I do believe in people having second chances and all this kind of thing, but this is something that they knew that they wanted to do with intent to destroy and cause horrific damage and harm, and they have succeeded in doing that. And I don't sympathise one bit with these people. I generally think they should be in solitary confinement for the rest of their lives. I really do. I don't think they should be given any kind of easy life for what they have caused, whether it was the ringleader or the people involved, because they didn't just cause unrelentless harm to people, to those who lost loved ones, to those who are still suffering to this day, but they literally changed the course of history by their actions. And they've led the way to even more damage, to what happened in Iraq, to what happened in Afghanistan, the millions of lives that have been displaced, the lives that have been lost, the soldiers that have died on both sides of conflicts, to even I also think to even what's happening in Israel and Gaza. A lot of things have been the catalyst by what happened on the 9/11. So many lives have died and suffered as a result of what's happened by the actions of these people. So I don't sympathize in any way, and I don't think they should be given like a plea deal. Like, to me, it's like, who cares about a plea deal? Keep them in solitary confinement. Fuck what they say, because of what they did. Maybe over time their thoughts and feelings about what they do have changed, but who gives a fuck what they think? What they did, and you look now back at history, I honestly say let them rot. But I can also understand why some people will want to give capital punishment as well. I do wish I don't like the means of torture that sometimes America does as well. I don't like it. I really don't. I don't approve of it. But I'm not surprised that they used it on them as well, guys. So, guys, we have reached the end of World's News Round. What did you guys think of some of the topics and news that we covered today? We covered quite a deal in Myanmar. We talked about what's happening in Sudan. Talked a bit about the Venezuelan election still. The trade swap between Russia and America, which is pretty good there in terms of prisoners and soldiers, and journalists, which is very good. Hearing about what North Korea may or may not do as well. The Kamala Harris deepfake audio. What did you guys think of that? Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, the men accused of plotting 9/11 as well. Let me know your thoughts about all these stories and more in the comment section down below. A reminder, I will not be monetizing this premiere video due to obviously the deepfake audio ad that I played for you guys. But just before you go, guys, if you can, just do one more thing for me. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you could do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.